Hi, I'm Celeste, and this is my coronavirus survival story and the aftermath. So it all started at the beginning of March. March 8th, my mother passed away from a prolonged illness. And we were going to have her funeral the week after that. So it started on Thursday, where my daughter came in from Brooklyn. She took the bus in from Brooklyn, and we were going to drive up 5.5 hours to my parents' house. So my daughter was coming in. She was like, I'm not feeling that great, but I think I'm just burnt out. I'm overtired, because she usually gets this way working in New York, because she's working a lot of hours, and she gets these little things. So I was like, well, sleep it off and see how you feel the next day. So, because we're driving up for the funeral. So she gets Friday morning, we get up early, we go. She's still not feeling that great, but she sleeps the whole way in the car. So we get to my parents' house, and my sister's there with a thermometer, checking everybody's temperatures, because she's getting a little paranoid about the coronavirus, because this is when things just started happening. So my daughter had a low-grade fever. So did her daughter, who came in from Brooklyn as well. So both of them went to bed, and they were actually fine the next day. So no symptoms, no fever. They were okay. So we just attributed it to some weird New York thing. So, or they were overtired or whatever. So we go to the funeral. There's about 31 people at the funeral. And we had a reception afterwards. Everybody pretty much did some social distancing. Nobody was shaking hands. Nobody was wearing masks, because that wasn't required at the time. Nobody was thinking of it, or we weren't required. And I think it was like one of the last funerals that they had before everything was quarantined. So that Monday, the 16th, we drove home. So the whole way, I had this dry cough. The whole way. It just kept coming and coming, the cough. The next day, that Tuesday, I had lethargy. I was really tired. Wednesday, I felt like I was coming down with something. I felt lousy. Thursday, I was in and out of bed. I just wasn't feeling that hot. No fever. Friday, low-grade I had a fever. I think it was about 100. And I just couldn't get out of bed. I think it was like 100, 101. So I kept drifting back and forth from that. And I was taking Tylenol for that, and it was helping. And then Saturday, it was getting worse. Sunday, even worse. It wasn't getting any better. So this was something that, at that point, I was having shortness of breath. I had the fever. I was having sweats. I was having trouble, like even walking to go to the bathroom. It was just, just leaving the bed was an issue. Shortness of breath. I called my doctor. The doctor didn't return my call. Tuesday, I called urgent care. They said, go get COVID tested. On Wednesday, they made an appointment for me. On Wednesday, when we got in the car to go get tested, the doctor called in the car, and she said, go to the emergency room. It sounds like you might have the coronavirus. I could barely even keep my eyes open, because it was so much effort just to do that. I get to the hospital, and right away they're, testing. They did the COVID test, which took a week to get the results back. So the whole time I was in the hospital, we didn't know whether it was coronavirus or not. And then they put me on oxygen, because my the breathing was so labored. So I was on like a level 2 by the time and then they did a chest x-ray, and I had pneumonia in my left lung. So put me on antibiotics, got a room. They had to up my oxygen because it wasn't enough. I ended up on more oxygen. And then was just having, I remember because my mother was on a ventilator during her ordeal in the hospital. She was hospitalized for 4 months and trying to get off the ventilator. And but she didn't have coronavirus. She had some other issues. But I remember I made sure that I was kept elevated, my chest elevated. I didn't lay flat. That helps with breathing. And I even had, at one point, had a nurse bring in a chair so I can be sitting in a chair on parts of the day. But this was like day 2. My oxygen level went up. I had to get more oxygen. And then they were trying to convince me to go on a ventilator. And I said, no way. I was just afraid that I was going to end up like not being able to get off. And I said, no, I don't want to go on a ventilator. And then another doctor came in. She goes, I'm treating your case like COVID. And she put me on the hydroxychloroquine, the malaria cocktail. And so within 4 hours, my fever went away and I was able, and my breathing got better. So I didn't feel like I had to go to the next level on oxygen, the final level, because I couldn't go any higher. I had to go on a ventilator after that. So I was very close to being put on the ventilator. So, but hydroxychloroquine, I was on the mend with that. And so I took that for 5 days and was in the hospital for 5 days. And then through just moving around, sitting up in the chair, trying to do deep breathing, I was able to get off the oxygen and go home. So I went home. I was hospitalized on the 25th. I went home on the 30th. And as I was pulling into the driveway, my sister texted me that my father was in an ambulance going to the hospital. She believes he has the coronavirus. So he had the cough. But the thing is, and my brother actually was diagnosed with the coronavirus as well. He was at the funeral as well. And we were both in the hospital at the same time. He was in Colorado and I was in New Jersey. And so who knows? He might have had it when he was at the funeral too, because he was being treated for a lung infection. It might have been the corona. We don't know. It could have been my niece. It could have been my daughter who brought it. We don't know. So, but nobody else got it at the funeral. So that's kind of odd too. So anyway, so I got home. So my father ended up being put on a ventilator, and they said his kidneys took a hit. So he ended up dying a month to the day that my mother died, April 8th. So my mother died March 8th. He died April 8th. We took him off the ventilator and he passed. And then shy of 2 months later, from my coronavirus escapade, I put in the hospital again for 4 days with unbelievable intestinal pain. It was horrible, from sternum to low belly. It was the day before Mother's Day. It started off with just slight muscle cramps, like you have to go to the bathroom. And then everything was voiding, not loose, but just, it was like everybody was leaving. So after that, it was like really bad pain from sternum to low belly, right in the front. It was just, and at some points I was throwing up from the pain. It was like the pain, you just couldn't get away from it. It was like you're being eaten from the inside out. So I go to the hospital with that, and because I couldn't take it. There was no way. You couldn't take it. It was unbelievable, the pain. And I have a very high pain tolerance. I had 5 kids without any drugs. My last kid was 12 pounds. It was a cakewalk compared to this. So I went to, so I was in the emergency room. I got a CT scan. They saw like an inflamed appendix. But it wasn't true appendicitis because I didn't have, my white blood count was fine. I had no pain on where the appendix is. It was, I could touch my abdomen, no problem. Everything was from the inside, and everything was inflamed. My intestines, I was all kind of distended. And so I went in at 1:00 in the morning, Mother's Day. At 5:30, I finally got a room, and I finally got some morphine because whatever they gave me in the ER didn't do anything. So the morphine just took all the pain away. Thank goodness I only had 3 doses of morphine and antibiotics, and then that was it. So I'm home, off the antibiotics, and hopefully this is it. So that's my coronavirus story and the aftermath. So I don't know. It's just everybody's different. Some people just have, like, they sleep it off. Some people, they don't have any symptoms. Some people have, I know my husband had a little bit of intestinal issues, and nobody was tested in the family because they only test you if you went to a doctor. There was no random, there had to be an appointment made by your doctor at the time. So so I'm pretty sure it went through our house. So, but everybody was different. My one son, he just had a lethargy, a headache, and loss of taste and smell. I lost my taste and smell after the first hospitalization. It's just coming back now, and this is Memorial Day weekend. So, and another weird thing that happened in the hospital the first time is I had blue hands. So I was really lacking oxygen. So I had blue fingers. And I think that's about all the details. But that's, it was a crazy ride, and I'm grateful that it's over. And I wouldn't wish this on anybody. So that's my coronavirus story. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.